Hey guys, this is Camper15 and I am back with another video, and I'm also joined by a new co-host to the channel, and that is my friend from college, Matt Stormstead. He has been on a few videos every now and then, like XFL videos when the XFL was huge at the time, and then he did come on talk the NFL draft, this past draft as well. But he's one of the not main people on my channel, not like my friend the Red Wolf who watch anime, or even like my uncle Daryl when it comes to talking Chicago Bears or maybe NBA content. So yeah, but for this point on, where he's going to be on the channel, and we're going to be discussing college football. And obviously, college football had week 0 last week, but I think it's better to start off with this week because hey, why not get a start on it? But yes, we are here to discuss college football and throughout the entire season. So obviously, the main thing is how we're going to structure these videos. So how these videos are going to be structured is, well, in one case, we're going to run through every conference, mostly the main important conferences, not like the FCS schools or anything, and just quickly go through the scores through those individual games. If we watch them, maybe we'll give a quick thoughts on those individual scores, but they won't be like something we talk about in depth. But we'll have maybe 5 to 6 games, or maybe games that we checked out that we thought were pretty interesting, that had pretty big implications for college football. And we'll go in depth and talk about that. So this week, in terms of games we are talking about that had the major implications, obviously UCLA versus LSU, Penn State versus Wisconsin, Alabama versus Miami, Clemson versus Georgia, Ohio State versus Minnesota, North Carolina versus Virginia Tech, and Oklahoma versus Tulane. So those are the games we're going to go in depth with. Everything else is just kind of just going to be skimming over. So how we're going to start off, we're going to go through all the conferences, skim over most of the games that are already final. And also, too, if you're wondering, well, we got Notre Dame and Florida State tonight because this video is being recorded on Sunday. And obviously Louisville and Ole Miss tomorrow on Monday. We will actually make a separate video on Tuesday, and they'll probably go up Wednesday to us discussing that whole game and stuff like that. But hey, that's kind of the weird thing with football, college football returning. But anyways, the first conference we're going to get through obviously is the ACC, which didn't really have a good week of football, to be honest, especially when their giant Clemson did not look good at all. But to run through most of the games, on Thursday, NC State had a game against the South Florida Bulls. Listen, I don't think we need to talk about. They just ramrodded these dudes, 45-0. So far, NC State out of all the ACC teams look like maybe the team that it's gonna maybe go up against or maybe somewhat challenge Clemson. We don't know. So yeah, but going on. North Carolina versus Virginia Tech, we'll talk about that in our big topic. That'll probably be the first game we talk about. Duke is a basketball school, and they lose to Charlotte 31-28.
I mean, what do you expect?
Okay, it's Duke. They're not good at football. So I think they lose. I think this is the second year in a row they lost to Charlotte back-to-back, which is bad. Okay, so listen. Duke's no problem. Wake Forest utterly annihilates Old Dominion 42-10. Nothing to say there. Boston College beat Colgate 51-0.
There you go.
Yeah.
Baby.
Alabama versus Miami. We'll get to that. Miami, I didn't watch much of that game, but Miami, from what I heard, did not look absolutely good at all.
Garbage.
Yeah. So I think their coach is Manny Diaz. I think he might be on the hot seat soon.
Yes.
I know a lot of Miami fans ain't liking him. Pittsburgh defeated UMass 51-7. Syracuse defeated Ohio 29-9. Obviously, we'll get to Georgia Clemson. Georgia Tech actually lost to Northern Illinois 22-21. Which is kind of a shocker there. You would think that Georgia Tech would beat this team, but then again, when I watched Georgia Tech last year or even 2 years ago, they weren't even good. Even though they're
Northern Illinois always performs kind of. They're not a bad school, I guess.
Yeah. And I think Georgia Tech's quarterback, hold on as I'm pulling up the stats real quick. I guess they had a new guy starting because I guess maybe the other guy from last year sucked too much. But Georgia Tech still sucks, even though they have a whole new spread offense now. So, yeah. And then obviously the last ACC game that has a final score as of this moment is Virginia versus William Mary, and they destroyed them 43-0. Overall, as a conference as a whole, until we see what Florida State and I guess what Louisville does in their individual games, ACC did not have a good week at all. Like, not a good week at all. So that's hopefully it goes good for them. Anyways, moving on to the American Conference. On Thursday, there was 3 games. Oh, we always talk about the South Florida versus NC State game. Boise State versus UCF. That was a pretty damn good game where UCF was trailing in that game, and they came all the way back. I did remember watching that game. Pretty cool. So good for Gus Malzahn because now he's the new coach for them because it was looking like it was getting bad there. But, hey, it was a nice back-and-forth game to say the least.
Yeah, fun game to watch, definitely.
Yeah, so UCF won that game 36-31. Appalachian State beat East Carolina 33-19. Tulsa lost to University of California Davis, or UC Davis. That's shocking.
Where is that located in California? Do you know?
I believe it's somewhere in Southern California.
I thought Tulsa would definitely beat them.
So typically they're not. I'm shocked that Tulsa lost, but hey, okay. We'll get to Oklahoma versus Tulane in the main games. Rutgers absolutely destroyed Temple, 61-14. So yeah. Also, I forgot to mention the score of the UC Davis Tulsa game. UC Davis beat Tulsa 19-17. Cincinnati, which is going to be a pretty top team in the country, utterly annihilates Miami, Ohio, 49-14. Marshall defeated Navy 49-7. Isn't Navy in the American Conference, or they're an independent?
I think Navy is in the American. I thought. Let me check real quick. It'll tell me.
Yeah.
Yeah, Navy is in the American Conference. Yep, Navy is in the.
Okay, yeah. So Navy's not starting off too good, and they haven't been good the last couple of years, to be honest. And then they lost that game 49-7. Texas Tech actually defeated Houston 38-21. I did watch a little bit of that game at the start, but obviously my eyes were to UCLA and Clemson versus Georgia. But yeah, Texas Tech defeats Houston. Memphis defeats Nichols, I guess, University 42-17, and SMU defeated Abilene Christian 56-9. Listen, I would say the American Conference had, I would say, a subpar, record this week. Nothing too standouts, but the only, I would say, positives, Tulane almost came back against Oklahoma, so that's one thing to say. Okay, so next conference, the Big 12. Kansas, again, just like Duke, a basketball school predominantly, they won their game, but they almost lost to South Dakota by the score of 17-14. They only beat them by 3.
Yeah, and I believe South Dakota is an FCS school.
Yeah. So, okay.
Yeah, they're an FCS school, correct.
Okay, yeah. That game was on Friday. The Saturday games from yesterday, Kansas State defeated Stanford 24-7. From the little bit I watched that game, Kansas State had freaking Stanford's absolute number right there. Listen, so far, even though Stanford has Emmitt Smith's son on the team, Stanford has, I guess, a quarterback problem. I don't know, because their quarterbacks, I think they did the whole two-man quarterback thing. They were not good at all.
I mean, the other quarterback, McKee, he was 15 of 18 and threw a touchdown, but the West kid, he threw 2 interceptions.
Oh yeah, so
I didn't know Stanford had Emmitt Smith's son as E.J. Smith.
yeah.
Yeah, he didn't. He had 3 carries for 18 yards. So.
Oh, oh, oh. No, he was there. At least Emmitt Smith was there. They played in Dallas, so hey, it makes sense why Emmitt Smith would show up there. So, yeah. A very entertaining game was Maryland versus West Virginia, with Maryland coming out on top against West Virginia. And from what I watched, it was definitely a back and forth game. But at some point, Maryland just gritted their teeth and came back on West Virginia. Now, in terms of West Virginia, it was a pretty kind of, I would say, bad loss in my opinion, because they had control of the game. They just had to put some points on the board, because it was kind of just a stalwart game. But then when Maryland kind of moved the ball down the field, it was already too late. And then Daggy didn't put West Virginia in a good spot to win either. No. I think he had like very costly interception late in that game. So, yeah.
And they lost 2 fumbles to West Virginia, so they had 4.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a very entertaining game to say the least. So, hey, it was a good win for Maryland. Iowa State might probably get knocked down in the rankings because for some reason they were in a battle with Northern Iowa.
Yeah, I didn't even know Northern Iowa had a football team.
Yeah, and Iowa State's the 7th ranked team in the country at this point. Well, I would say
they have a upcoming. They play Iowa next week, so we'll know a lot about.
Oh yeah. Them. I heard that. I think that's going to be the primetime game because that's where College Game Day is going to be stationed.
Yeah, it's
on DC. So, yeah. Listen, I'm just going to say this. That does not look encouraging. Yeah, again, you'll take any win you can get, but you're the 7th ranked team in the country, and I think Northern Iowa is an FCS school, and you only can beat them by 6 points. It's not exactly convincing. I would expect Iowa State to probably drop in the rankings.
Yeah, it could be the first game jitters and everything too.
Also. Yeah.
We'll a lot about them next week when they play Iowa. So
yeah. Number 21, Texas defeated number 23, Louisiana, by the score of 38-18. I did watch most of this game for really up until it was kind of a stalwart game where Texas just had the upper hand. And it looked like Louisiana was going to fire back and maybe try to make a comeback, but then Texas just went crazy.
I was surprised with this. I had high expectations for Louisiana this year. I actually picked Louisiana to beat Texas. So.
Their new starting quarterback and replacement for Sam Ehlinger, Card. I thought it looked good for what he gave us. Now, what I say, is it good enough to beat Oklahoma? Probably not. But we'll just have to see as he progresses. Obviously, Texas Tech had their win over Houston. Oklahoma State defeated Missouri State by the score of 23-16. So another close game. Probably, again, week 1 jitters there. Although I don't know why they didn't defeat Missouri State any farther. But, hey, I didn't catch any of that game. And then Baylor defeated Texas State 29-20. I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to say that's a bad win because Texas State, I think last year was actually pretty damn good last year. So that's the whole thing. And then TCU defeated Duquesne. I don't know how you pronounce that school's name. 45-3. Overall, I would say the Big 12 had a very great weekend. Other than really West Virginia losing, they had a pretty solid weekend. So that's good for them. Big 10 play. Obviously, we're not going to discuss last week's game with Illinois and Nebraska. Obviously, Ohio State, they defeated Minnesota. We'll talk more about that. Michigan State defeated Northwestern. Now, I was actually in the movie theaters watching Shang-Chi. But from what I heard, Michigan State utterly freaking just dominated Northwestern.
Yeah, it wasn't close the whole game. It wasn't really close.
Penn State and Wisconsin, that was a really good game. But we'll talk about that later. Well, Michigan, they utterly annihilated Western Michigan by the score of 47-14. as they should. Again, we have to see what they can do against their Big Ten conference legit foes. So it's the same thing with Michigan. They can beat these pretty decent to subpar teams, but when they go up against Big Ten play, they typically don't do good.
I'm pretty sure Harbaugh took an extension too, if I believe.
Yes, they did.
So I mean, I don't know why really, but
yeah. Anyways, we already discussed Rutgers versus Temple. Nothing much to talk about there. Nebraska rebounds from their, I would say, pathetic loss to Illinois last week. Gets a win against a, I guess, FCS school in Fordham. They beat them 52-7. Okay, so hey, whatever. Scott Frost, yeah. Hey, you beat a bad team. I think you guys got Oklahoma next up. So
oh God,
let's see what you can do there.
I mean, I'm not even big on Oklahoma this year, but Scott Frost, I'm never been big on.
Yeah. A pretty surprising game, to say the least. We'd all probably thought that this game would have been closer, and that's number 17 Indiana versus number 18 Iowa. Now, I did watch literally up until the first half, and holy shit, man. Iowa just utterly annihilated Indiana from the jump.
The quarterback, I'm pretty sure he threw 3 interceptions. He did not look good.
Penix Jr., yeah, he looked like a shell of himself from last year. He was just like one of his picks was just really, really bad. One of the picks was like off his receiver, which was more on the receiver, but he had thrown like one pick in the game, which was a pick 6. That was really bad, where he just tried to force a pass and the receiver wasn't even looking, and Iowa defender was there. Definitely, I don't know if Indiana's going to drop out of the AP poll rankings, but they definitely did not look good. The least I'd probably drop him is to the lower 20s, like either 23 or 24 or 25, but not a good way to for Indiana to start their season off when they're essentially supposed to be probably a team that could go up and challenge Ohio State. Not a good way to start their season.
It could just be him off the injury too. I'm pretty sure he was injured last year. Could be that, but I'm pretty sure they were ranked in the top 10 at one point last year.
Yeah, they were.
I think it was maybe 9th, but I expected at least a closer game.
Yeah, and I think this was the first. Year in quite a while they've been ranked to start off a season. Yeah. That might change. Obviously, Iowa with some losses ahead of them for other teams that were ahead of them in the polls, they might go up slightly a bit. We already discussed Maryland versus West Virginia. In terms of the Maryland side of things, I would say Talia Tagovailoa did look really good. He still did look shaky every now and then, but when it came to crunch time, he showed up.
And he didn't turn the ball over, which is good. He had 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, threw for like 339 yards, I believe, or something around there.
Yeah.
He had really. I'm impressed. West Virginia. I think West Virginia is not a bad team either. I don't think. I really don't. I think their quarterback and having 4 turnovers as a team is not going to help you out at all.
Mm-hmm. So the next game after that was Purdue versus Oregon State. I believe this was like a first ever meeting between the two teams. Purdue ended up coming out on this on top 30-21. Nothing much to say here because I barely even saw a look at this game.
Yeah, I didn't see much either. I just know they were talking about on College Game Day and only one of the hosts picked Oregon State.
Yeah, Oregon State's not a good Pac-12 team.
Yeah, well, the Pac-12, they're but I mean, your boy's from UCLA, so we'll see.
Yeah, and then to end off the Big Ten, University of Texas San Antonio actually defeated Illinois.
Nebraska.
Yeah. Maybe it's from the fact that Illinois starting quarterback still isn't back because he's hurt. But wow, I never would have seen that coming. But I would probably say that's probably the letdown loss of the conference because how can you lose to an inferior school? Other than that, I thought the Big Ten had a pretty damn good week as well. I thought they did really damn good. So nothing to say about that. Anything to say about the Big Ten?
No, like I said, I thought they had a pretty good week other than the last game we just talked about, UTSA and Illinois. Other than that, though, solid week for the Big Ten.
Yep. The Conference USA conference. We're gonna run through these because I doubt we count any of these games. UTEP defeated New Mexico State 30-3. UAB defeated Jacksonville State, which I think Jacksonville State is a HBCU school.
Yeah, I watched that game. That was on a Wednesday. That was like the kickoff, Montgomery kickoff. I watched a little bit of that game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, UAB defeated them 31-0. Western Kentucky defeated UT Martin 59-21. FIU defeated Long Island 48-10. Obviously, Charlotte defeated Duke, so I would probably say that's probably the biggest win that they have.
FAU game was, or Florida, yeah, FAU game was closer than I expected, but you keep going.
Mm-hmm. Wake Forest, obviously, Old Dominion is part of the Conference USA. They defeated Wake Forest 42-10. Rice got blown up to Arkansas 38-17. Marshall defeated Navy 49-7. Actually, it was a pretty close game, and I thought Louisiana Tech was going to win this game. But then I turned around, I just switched games, and I'm like, oh, Louisiana Tech should have this. But Mississippi State actually came back and defeated Louisiana Tech 35-34. And I believe Louisiana Tech had a chance to win the game on a last-second field goal, got it blocked.
Mississippi State, Mike Leach, it's that offense. So I mean, I love it. Yeah, it says that it was a 1-point game. I think the field goal did get blocked, maybe.
Yeah, I guess good for Mississippi State because if they had lost the Conference USA team, that would have been crazy. It was already bad enough that we later found out that, well, an SEC team loses to a Pac-12 team. They had lost to a Conference USA team. Holy crap. MTSU defeated Monmouth. Florida defeated FAU. It was close in the first half. And
Lane Kiffin was out for FAU, the head coach, with COVID. So that's a lot coming on game day, especially.
Yeah. North Texas defeated Northwestern State. Obviously, UTSA defeated Illinois. South Alabama defeated Southern Mississippi. UTEP defeated Bethune-Cookman. And that was it. Not much. I guess they had a pretty good week. Obviously, I would say the biggest one would probably be Charlotte or, UTSA winning over those individual foes. So, yeah.
Just because they're the conference that Duke and Illinois were in, I'd say that same.
Mm-hmm. In terms of independent games,
I know what game you're looking at.
Holy Cross defeated UConn.
After UConn just lost last week and didn't even score a point last week.
Now, we used to live in Connecticut because we went to school out in Connecticut, and man, I knew UConn was bad, but god damn, their football team sucks.
They're terrible.
I think Holy Cross had only 2 wins against FBS teams. Oh, here they go. At this point, you might as well just move UConn to the FCS because these guys suck.
We do go by Holy Cross's field on the way home, and their field's literally right on the highway.
Yep.
It's right there.
Yeah.
Nice field, but.
Yeah. And Holy Cross did do this on Connecticut's field, but I don't think that when they showed the panels of what the stadium looked like, barely any fans went there because who gives a fuck about UConn football? They only care about their women's basketball and their men's basketball team.
I mean, I wouldn't really care about the football team either, though.
So, hey, I think there was apparently a player on the sideline for that game on UConn, legitly freaking crying. I'm like, well, I'd probably be crying too if I lost a Holy Cross. Honestly, I'd probably been just demanding just to get my transfer papers ready. So, hey, listen, if he wants to cry, he can cry. Go right ahead. Anyways, moving on. Army defeated Georgia State 43-10. Going on, more independent games. I guess UMass is an independent, so they lost to Pittsburgh. Isn't Liberty an independent?
I Yeah, they are. They didn't do bad last year, I thought.
Oh no, they didn't do bad. Unless I think they're in the same conference as.
No, they're an independent school. Liberty's independent. I just checked.
Okay. Yeah, they defeated Campbell 48-7. From the little game I watched, definitely they looked really good. Malik Willis so far, other than I guess you could say Bryce Young looked impressive. But Bryce Young won't be drafted, I believe, till next season. But Malik Willis could be drafted this upcoming draft. So far, of all the highly touted quarterbacks, he was probably the best this week.
Yeah, I'd say so far in the season, 100%.
But hey, I'm a Bears fan, so thank God I got my quarterback. I don't have to worry about this.
I got my quarterback too as a Patriot fan, so I'm sad.
BYU defeated Arizona 24-16, and also shout out to that one player that had that crazy neck injury. Then they actually had to cut off his helmet. The game had to be delayed for quite a bit, but BYU came out on top. So they're, I guess, after their post-Zach Wilson era, it's going good for them. They play Utah, I believe, next week. And then San Diego State defeated New Mexico State 28-10. Isn't San Diego State an independent as well?
I thought San Diego State they are in the Mountain West.
Okay. So they must have been New Mexico State. That's an independent, I guess. Mm-hmm. All right. Nothing much to talk about the independents, but yeah, going into the MAC conference. In terms of the MAC conference, Ball State defeated Western Illinois. Buffalo completely annihilated Wagner. Bowling Green got destroyed by Tennessee. Eastern Michigan defeated St. Francis, Pennsylvania. Western Michigan lost to Michigan. Miami, Ohio lost to Cincinnati. It was actually a pretty close game. It was only a 10-point game. Missouri defeated Central Michigan. I know for a part in that game was relatively close from what I was checking out of that game. So, okay. It is what it is. Auburn annihilated Akron. Okay. Then Ohio got destroyed by Syracuse. Toledo defeated Norfolk State. Northern Illinois probably got the biggest win for the MAC conference, again, beating Georgia Tech. And then Texas A&M utterly destroyed Kent State, even though, probably for the first quarter or second quarter, it was close. And then Texas A&M just said enough with this.
My boy Johnny's alma mater.
Yes.
He was there. He was at the game, actually.
Oh, I bet he was. I saw your tweet. Mountain West Conference. For the Mountain West, Boise State lost to UCF. We already talked about that game. New Mexico defeated Houston Baptist. Eastern Washington actually defeated UNLV in double overtime, which is crazy. South Dakota State defeated Colorado State. That's shocking. Fresno State took Oregon to the wire. So maybe, yeah, I did catch a little bit at the end of that game, wondering if Fresno State was going to upset Oregon. But maybe, again, Oregon probably, I guess, overlooked their opponents into, obviously, their big matchup next week with Ohio State.
That's going to be awesome. Does Oregon play UCLA this year? Oh, they do it. They play
yes, they
on
do.
the 23rd of October. That could be a great game. I hope UCLA – I hope both of them – I mean, I don't see Oregon beating Ohio State, but I'd love to see both of them go with that undefeated.
Yeah. Air Force defeated Lafayette 35-14. Wyoming defeated Montana State. San Jose State lost to USC in a blowout. Nevada defeated California 22-17, so that's good for them. They defeated a Pac-12 team. San Diego State obviously defeated New Mexico State. Utah State beat Washington State, so another Mountain West team beating a Pac-12 team. And Hawaii, they defeated Portland State, and I guess you'd say got rebounded from the loss to UCLA. So moving on, the Pac-12. What is it? Utah defeated Weber State. Arizona State. First things first. Utah's the 24th ranked team in the country. They won their game. Arizona State was the 25th ranked team in the country. They defeated Southern Utah. Colorado defeated Northern Colorado. Kansas State beat Stanford. Again, Stanford did not look good. So they definitely got to get better quarterback play and stuff like that. Oregon, we just talked about that. They were in a dogfight with Fresno State. They did lose one of I think, their defensive lineman, Thibodeau. So he could be a game time decision for Ohio State. They don't know the whole thing there. USC defeated San Jose State. They're the 15th ranked team in the country, and Oregon's the 11th ranked team in the country. Oregon State lost to Purdue. Probably the worst loss in the conference definitely goes to Washington.
Oh, yes. I agree there. I didn't again. Montana. They must be an FCS school.
They are.
And 7 points. That game. Did you watch any of that game?
I didn't watch any of the game because I didn't tune into the Pac-12 network.
I saw the highlights, and the Washington they had opportunities and they just didn't score.
And Washington is a 20th ranked team in the nation. They're definitely by next week, by the new polls, are dropping out of the polls.
Oh,
you cannot lose to an FCS school. 13-7. That's a one-score game. You can't score one damn touchdown.
Well, one touchdown. They couldn't score another one.
So that was probably the worst loss of the Pac-12. Thank God UCLA won their game against an SEC school to somewhat take the blame off of Washington. Otherwise, if I'm going to be honest, Pac-12 had a probably horrible week. They're probably the team that had the worst week out of all the conferences.
But the UCLA game win was huge for them, though.
Yeah, it was definitely huge for the conference as a whole.
Yes.
But Washington losing to Montana,
that put a damper on the conference.
Oh, brother. So I'm guessing Washington sucks if we're losing to FCS schools. And Montana.
I'm worried about them, put it that way.
Yeah. And mind you, Montana did this on their home field. If I was a Washington fan watching that game, I probably would have been fucking pissed.
I might ask mom and dad if I can get to a new school.
Yeah. Obviously, LSU, the 16th ranked team in the country, lost to UCLA. We'll get to that. Nevada defeated California. Didn't watch much of that, even though it was kind of one of those what they quote unquote like to call it Pac-12 after dark games. I watched a little bit of it, but then I kind of just went upstairs and kind of just laid down for the night. Arizona lost to BYU, so their ex-Kevin Sumlin era football isn't getting off to a good start, but I guess you could say they made it competitive, to say the least. And then Utah State defeated Washington State. Washington State, okay, yeah. You got two more conferences, the SEC and the Sun Belt. We'll actually go to the Sun Belt Conference first. Coastal Carolina defeated the Citadel 52-14, and Coastal Carolina is the second, the 22nd ranked team in the nation. East Carolina lost to Appalachian State. UL Monroe lost to Kentucky in a blowout. Georgia State lost to Army. Louisiana, like we talked about earlier, lost to Texas. Georgia Southern defeated Gardner-Webb. Texas State lost to Baylor, even though it was a competitive game. Arkansas State defeated Central Arkansas, and Troy defeated Southern, and South Alabama defeated Southern Mississippi. Nothing much to talk about. I think the only team that we really truly care about really in this conference is probably Coastal Carolina.
Yeah, I'd say they played on Thursday night, and they were on ESPN Plus, and I knew they were going to win that game.
Yeah. Obviously, we're going to end off the last conference talking about the SEC conference. On Thursday, Tennessee defeated Bowling Green. Joel Milton, the transfer from Michigan, definitely did look a lot better than any start he had in Michigan, but then again, it's Bowling Green. So we're really going to have to see what he does against other SEC opponents. He also did look like he bulked up some bit. Hey, good for him. Hopefully he performs better at Tennessee than he did with Michigan. And I just feel if he does do that, Michigan fans are going to be like, what the fuck happened here? So, hey, maybe it must be the curse of the Wolverines because they suck. Kentucky, like I said earlier, defeated UL Monroe. Arkansas's Jerry Jones College defeated Rice. Again, Alabama. So far, they look like they're the best team in the freaking nation. So, yeah, they utterly destroyed Miami. Mississippi State almost had an upset, but defeated Louisiana Tech. Missouri defeated Central Michigan. Auburn defeated Akron. South Carolina defeated, I would guess, Eastern Illinois, 46-0. Georgia defeated Clemson 10-3. We'll get more into that. Florida, the 13th ranked team in the country, defeated FAU. Texas A&M, the 6th ranked team in the country, defeated Kent State. Now, this school name, I don't know the full school's name, but ETSU defeated Vanderbilt easily.
I know. Well, the thing about Vanderbilt is they're definitely more of a baseball school, but they like in basketball and football, I feel like they're always like a well-rounded school. But they
suck at football.
No, I don't think they're that bad, honestly. I feel like they're never like a team that you could never. They're not like a team like Washington losing to Montana. I don't think they'd ever lose a team like Montana. Put it that way.
I would request that maybe their football team might need to change conferences. They're the
SEC.
Yeah. I think their football team might need to change conferences because Vanderbilt, I'm sorry. They're honestly, I would count them in the same tier as UConn.
Oh no. Guys, don't do that to them. Don't do that.
Football-wise, they're just as trash.
UConn might have to move down to Division II.
Maybe college football needs to schedule a game between Vanderbilt and UConn, and we'll see who the worst team in college football.
The spread will be Vanderbilt by at least 28.5.
I need that scheduling next year then. UConn versus Vanderbilt, and we'll see.
Yeah, NCAA. Vanderbilt, UConn. Schedule it now.
Yeah, who the worst team in Division I football is? Vanderbilt or UConn?
They should have the worst team in the FBS, but the worst team in the FCS. And the winner goes to Division I.
That's true. And then obviously LSU did not get their win against UCLA in embarrassing fashion. So those are all the main conferences we talk about. I would say, I guess SEC had a pretty decent, week. Obviously, my Alabama and Georgia definitely helped that out. But I really do feel like that LSU loss to UCLA really fucking hurt them. Or the SEC as a whole, especially when you have the fact that Ed Orgeron is calling UCLA fans having sissy blue shirts. So,
you saw that too?
Yeah,
I saw that, and I think you might have been the one that tweeted and said that aged well.
Yeah. Anyways, we're gonna get talking to the main games and go more in depth with these games. So obviously, let's talk about probably one of the first games of college football. Yes, I know. I would love to watch Shohei Ohtani right now, but I'm not. Ohio State versus Minnesota. And what I thought was a pretty good game. And then it literally by the end of the game, Ohio State just imposed its will on Minnesota. Now, in the first half, it was a close-knit battle, and it was a freaking good game. You had obviously Ohio State with their new quarterback, CJ Stroud, obviously in his first career start at Ohio State. He actually is from, I didn't even know, they had to put the graphic up, but he's from Rancho Cucamonga, California. So an Inland Empire product. Don't know if he played at, I have to look up what school he played at, but if he played at Rancho Cucamonga High School, then, oh, that's cool.
Did you play against them or no?
No, they were like high division teams.
Yeah.
Now first half wise, CJ Stroud did not look good. Like he was all right, but it wasn't anything that it was giving Ohio State any means to have Minnesota be like, oh, we're no match for these guys. Minnesota just took it to these guys for a half, and everything. So I definitely liked what I saw from Minnesota for a half. The only thing I guess you could say what happened is when it came to the second half, obviously Ryan Day and the Ohio State, they kind of been in this situation before where they've trailed in games. And essentially, Ohio State just flipped the switch and they were a completely new team. And we saw just kind of how dangerous this team can be, especially when the quarterback gets out to targets like the running back who was killing it, Olave who was killing it. And listen, Ohio State has probably some of the best skilled players in this year's season of college football. Like literally, all CJ Stroud threw was like literally 60-yard pass. Well, there was one pass. It was literally a check down pass, and the running back literally ran for 60 yards for a touchdown. And I was like, good God, these guys are athletic and skilled as hell. You know, Chris Olave got a 70-yard receiving touchdown. And essentially the whole thing is, you know, Minnesota had their chances to get back in the game. Their offense would give them touchdowns, but their defense will let them down. And every time, you know, Minnesota scored, well, Ohio State would just score right back. And when Minnesota needed a stop, when they had chances to get stops, they didn't get the stop when they just let a big gain go for a touchdown. And that was kind of it. So I would say Minnesota played a somewhat pretty decent game. It's just they definitely needed a key stop. The only thing also coming out from the game that is kind of a bummer for Minnesota is that the fact that they probably lost their running back, Mohamed Ibrahim, probably for the season, because if you go back and watch the injury, it was like the Kevin Durant injury in the finals with the Golden State Warriors, where you saw his calf literally pop. And I think he just completely ruptured his Achilles. So that sucks. He definitely was going to be a high draft pick in terms of running backs for the draft, but that sucks. But those are my takeaways from the game. Your takeaways?
I'm a big PJ Fleck fan, the coach of Minnesota, but they were good a few years ago. Remember, it was maybe 2 years ago, or was it last year when they had that really good season?
It was 2 years ago.
Yeah, and they've always been a good defensive team, and like you said, they had opportunities. They had opportunities to win the game, like they really did, and they could have, but they didn't. And I also think that Ohio State played well, but I also don't think they played their best game, honestly.
I would agree to that.
So I think the score shows. I mean, it shows a lot about Minnesota, but I think it doesn't show as much about as Ohio State as we'll see this year. I think they're gonna improve. You know, it like you said, it's the first game. They're gonna improve, and I think next week against Oregon is gonna show a lot about both those teams. So I think that we'll see a lot next week too.
Yeah, it was also CJ Stroud's first start, so
yeah, and he's replacing Justin Fields. I mean, that's it's not like easy shoes to fill, and like you always have the pressure and stuff like that.
Yeah, which I did see on Twitter, some Ohio State fans were not too high on CJ Stroud, where they're like, I'm missing Justin Fields right now. I'm like, listen.
Who wouldn't? I mean,
it's like you got to remember, this guy's making his first college career start, so of course he's going to be struggling on the game. We saw that struggle. You saw him struggling for a first half, and then second half he turned it on. Obviously, he's going to get a tougher opponent in Oregon, but the one thing you have to like for him is he went into pretty hostile territory in Minnesota and came out the victor in his first start. He looked damn near just as composed as Justin Fields looked when he was there.
Minnesota has a good defense too. Definitely, that's the strength of their team, their defense.
Yeah,
I really believe that. So he, like you said, he went into a hostile environment. And I think he played well for his first start.
Yeah. Obviously, like I said earlier, he looked just as composed as Justin Fields has looked, even in his few starts in the preseason. Even when Justin Fields was at Ohio State, he looked just as composed. I'm not saying he's going to be even better than Justin Fields, but I'm just saying, like, he had the composure was there. So he looks like a kid that's not afraid of the moment.
No, not at all. And he's going to have a lot more big games than that. So
yeah. So yeah, Ohio State's going to be going against Oregon next week. Definitely, they're going to have to play a lot better, especially in the first half.
I think that game's on at noon, if I'm not mistaken.
It's at Ohio State, yeah.
So it's on at noon, right? I think it's a Fox game. So that'll be a great game. That'll be an awesome game to watch early in the morning.
Yeah.
9 for me, 9 for you.
Yep. Anyways, going to the next big game. That was a Friday game. That was North Carolina versus Virginia Tech. And if I remember, North Carolina was ranked
10th, I believe.
10th in the country. Yes, they were ranked 10th in the country. Obviously, North Carolina has high expectations for this season. One, they got Heisman hopeful candidate Sam Howell. They look like they could be the team in the ACC that could go all the way to the championship game and actually potentially beat and knock off Clemson, and look like they could be a team to watch out for. Well, in this game, to say the least, they didn't impress me at all, like at all. Sam Howell, in terms of Heisman candidacy, I would honestly kick him out of the freaking Heisman candidacy. Now, again, it's only 1 week, but he did not look good at all.
No.
The team as a whole didn't look good. That offense for UNC didn't look good. Now, that's probably because they're missing guys like Daz Newsome, Michael Carter, and I forgot the one other receiver / running back that they had on their team. But they definitely showed that they missed him, and it's a team getting adjusted to new parts. So they lost this game, and it wasn't exactly convincing, to say the least. Virginia Tech honestly gave me a more convincing win, in all honesty, by taking down the 10th team in the country. I thought Berkmeyer is his last name. Burstmeister. I thought he played all right, to say the least. He did just enough to have the Hokies win, or the Hokies win. But he didn't really do too much, and stuff like that. But yeah, I feel like this win is a good win for Virginia Tech. So maybe they could be a surprise in the ACC. But I morally feel like this is morally a bad loss by UNC. They looked like, I guess, literally unprepared to play today or play that game.
Yeah, I mean, a few things. I don't know if you watched the beginning of this game or anything, but Virginia Tech, before the game, when they did an entrance to enter Sandman or whatever, It was awesome. It was so loud, and like fans were back in the stadium, and that is first of all, that's a hostile environment to play in. Like, so I also think this hurts the ACC with Clemson a lot, because they needed North Carolina to be good until the game. They needed them to only lose to them for any, like, especially losing to Georgia or week one. Like, granted, Georgia's a good team, but this really hurts Clemson too, I believe. So a Pac-12 team could sneak in there over an ACC team.
Yeah, definitely does. And as a whole, ACC didn't have a good weekend at all.
No, they didn't. I don't think they did at all. I think they had a very, very poor week.
So definitely this loss to UNC, I guarantee you Clemson saw this and they're like, shit, we need to win our game against freaking Georgia. And sadly, they did not. In terms of UNC, where they would probably drop, I would probably drop them to probably somewhere past 15, in the area of 15 to 20 area, so maybe 16th or 17th in the country, I guess would be a pretty substantial drop for them. That's just my opinion. I guess you didn't really discuss about Sam Howell, but what were your thoughts on Sam Howell's performance?
Like I said, it's a hostile environment, but he's got to score more. Put it that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I said, he's a Heisman candidate. He's like one of the number one Heisman candidates. He's been there before. He's been in hostile environments, and this isn't his first game. Like, he's got to play better. That's what I think, honestly. And
even too, going past Heisman, he's legit supposed to be what people say is probably the top quarterback coming out of this year's draft for this year's NFL draft.
Oh, 100%. But I don't think he helped himself at all.
Oh yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah, definitely seeing this. It's like teams this year, like the Jets, Bears, Patriots, 49ers, they're probably all glad that they got their quarterbacks this past draft, because it's probably going to be the best quarterback draft, last draft, in quite a while. This draft, in terms of quarterbacks, not promising. And if if a team's looking for a quarterback, it's like, oh. I guess
the Giants and Daniel Jones, this is one of his last years to really, I don't know about the Panthers and Sam Darnold, how they feel about him.
Yeah.
The Lions and Goff. Broncos and Bridgewater.
Yeah, so we'll just have to see. We'll have to see.
Exactly. We'll have to see exactly.
So obviously the next game, which started really Saturday, was obviously one of the big games, and that was Penn State going up against Wisconsin. And Penn State was the number 19th team ranked in the country compared to Wisconsin, who was the 12th ranked team in the country at the time. And this game, for a majority of this game, was just a defensive battle. With 0-0 going into half, then Wisconsin scored, then Penn State scored, and for a majority of this part, it was freaking 7-7. Then Wisconsin took the upper hand, but then, Penn State essentially sealed the deal by getting a few extra points, and they ended up pulling out a win in a very tough environment in that Wisconsin place. Now, in terms of the Penn State side of things, it's good for them. Now, hey, listen, I would say for Penn State, you'll take this win because it was a hard, gritty win, especially with the misfortune that they had last year. It's definitely, in their books, a good win. You beat a Big Ten conference opponent, and, you upset them because you're lower in the rankings than them. Now, I would say defensively, I thought they were pretty damn solid and pretty damn good. Offensively, it still doesn't look good. Clifford, what's his full name? Sean Clifford. You would think he would be at this point in his college career where, okay, it's time for you to take the next step. And he just didn't look like it. Like, it took him quite a while to finally move the ball down the field against Wisconsin.
Yeah, and his defense helped him out with 2 interceptions against Graham
Mertz.
Yeah. So, and I don't think he played well either. I thought he was going to play a lot better.
Oh, yeah.
I was really disappointed in that.
Look, Sean and Clifford didn't really do good. So yeah, but obviously the main receiver that kind of got them Penn State over the hump was obviously Jahan Dotson making that 149-yard catch for a touchdown, which was pretty good on their case. But in terms of James Franklin, that was definitely a good one for him, especially after the last year. So I think this is coming off last. Go ahead.
Sorry, you go. Keep going.
I said coming off of last year, I think this is their 5th straight win. So, hey, that's some momentum right in, especially defeating a Big Ten rival.
Would you say James Franklin was on the hot seat?
I guess you can say that, but I wouldn't blame him for not being on the hot seat because if you go back to last year, most of his best players opted out last year.
Last year was definitely a funky year for everyone. So, yeah.
Yeah. So I guess you can say now maybe you could put on the hot seat with those allegations that came up. I guess you could say that. Don't know what those allegations are going now. I think they're like completely gone. But hey, if James Franklin can just do good enough to be able to be competitive, well, guess what? Maybe get back to the Big Ten championship. Maybe they could be the team to knock off Ohio State. I need to see it to believe it. But, yeah, I think next week Penn State plays Auburn in Happy Valley, I believe. I have to look at it.
Next week, there's a few good games next week. So.
Oh, no, they play Ball State next week, and then the week after they play Auburn.
Okay, so we'll get that in 2 weeks. But I don't think that'll be where College Game Day is, but that's still a good game.
Yeah. Now, in terms of the Wisconsin side of things, defense looked really good. I would say defense looked pretty dang good. It's just the same old with good old Wisconsin. They honestly remind me of the Chicago Bears. They have good defense. They definitely have better offensive line play than the Bears do. They have great running backs. The only problem is they never have a damn quarterback.
100% agree.
And I think I listened to another college football podcast said, shit, you could have just put Jack Cohn back there and it would have been no difference. And Jack Cohn, he's starting quarterback for Notre Dame, and we'll see how he does at Notre Dame. But Graham Mertz, good God, he was arguably – no, not arguably. He was the worst player for Wisconsin on this team.
Oh, 100%.
You know, people had a lot of high expectations from Graham Mertz, especially after coming out of nowhere from last year. And then the reason why he didn't really have, I would say, a decent year is because he was always in and out because of obviously COVID and the outbreak that Wisconsin had. So you would think, okay, Graham Mertz, year 2, he would show more of his great play. And he literally, his stat line was 22 for 37, 185 yards, 2 interceptions, no touchdowns. And he utterly sucked. He did not look good at all.
Terrible line.
He threw a very mistimely interception on 4th and goal. Hell, if we're being honest, I don't even think that pass was nowhere close to the receiver.
I don't know what he was trying to do there, but I know, and it was right to the Penn State guy. Like, I mean,
yeah. I think
put it that way.
Yeah, from the play, I saw it was like, I guess, some sort of quick inside route to the tight end, and stuff like that. That didn't do them no favor. Now they had a chance to do a drive, to try to win the game at the end. But he had a very costly intentional grounding call, and then obviously he ended the game off with an interception. So he definitely needs to play much better. Then again, Wisconsin doesn't really have, I would say, a top receiver. Like, they were mostly throwing to their freaking tight end. Now,
school anyways, but
yeah. Now Davis the third, he had 8 receptions for 99 yards. So maybe the receivers are talented enough, but probably not like as talented as the Ohio States and some other Big Ten schools and stuff like that. They're now Wisconsin running back, Lucy, he had 31 carries for 121 yards, so he did his job.
I mean, that's a great stat line, I think.
Yeah, Graham Mertz just didn't do his job now. Listen, he definitely needs to step up his play and play better. I'm checking to see who Wisconsin has next. They play Eastern Michigan at home next, and then they got Notre Dame after that. So that's going to be another big game.
Yeah, they got this, but the thing is, these teams can't take teams as cakewalks, as you can see, because a team like Washington losing to like Montana, so Eastern Michigan next week still is. They got every week to come out to play in college football now.
Yeah. So I would imagine Wisconsin is definitely going to drop in the rankings, probably around the same area where North Carolina is going to be at, between 15 to 20. Hell, maybe they might drop after 20. We'll just have to see. So yeah, Penn State obviously is going to go up in the rankings. I would probably put them above 15, somewhere above 15. Just slightly before 10 or something like that. We'll see where they put them, because people who do the polls sometimes just, I don't know. They're just like, 1 week they hit spot on. Other weeks you're just like, what the hell are you doing here?
Can you edit these videos?
Mostly, yeah.
Can I use the bathroom real quick?
I can pause it real quick. So, yeah. All right, guys, back from that quick little break. The next game after the last game we talked about, we're going to talk about Oklahoma versus Tulane. Obviously, we will keep our thoughts and prayers with the people from Louisiana, with obviously the Hurricane Ida stuff that happened there this past weekend, and stuff like that. So because of that, Tulane this game had to be moved to actually Norman, Oklahoma to be played. The one thing I did like that what Oklahoma did is they put the Tulane logo on their field. So that was nice of Oklahoma to do that, and stuff like that. But this game was actually a lot closer than it originally looked like. At first, Oklahoma was running away with this game, and then Tulane literally almost made a comeback on Oklahoma. Now, I didn't pay much attention to this game because when Oklahoma started going, ballistic, I was like, okay, I think it's time to go watch and focus on the Penn State-Wisconsin game. But then, guess what? Tulane is trying to make a comeback, and they almost pulled it off. They just didn't have enough time. I will say I did watch enough, or a little bit in the few first quarter, where Tulane actually kind of made Oklahoma work to beat them. And Oklahoma is the number 2 team in the nation. So obviously we're going to probably talk more about Oklahoma here, but Oklahoma definitely, if they are damn near struggling to escape Tulane, definitely shows that they might not be or should be ranked number 2 in the country. Definitely did not impress me at all, especially now finding out that Tulane almost came back on them. So it seems like it's typical Oklahoma. Their offense is fine, but their defense, it's still same old defense. So maybe you hope when they move to the SEC finally they get actual legit defensive players.
Tulane's quarterback played very well too, though.
Yeah.
Granted, it could be because Oklahoma's defense is terrible, but.
So, yeah, that's just my thoughts. I would have a feeling that Oklahoma might drop a spot or two in the rankings because why should they be at number 2 when they almost lost to an inferior opponent? And technically, it's on their home field, even though it was a away game for them. So,
and I guess I see Georgia leapfrogging them.
Oh yeah, of course. Any thoughts on this game?
I was really impressed with Tulane's quarterback. I've watched quite a bit of this game, and Spencer Rattler, another Heisman candidate, he performed all right, I guess, but he turns the ball over quite a bit. Honestly, so I mean, again, we'll see a lot more with them later in the season, I think. But I was really impressed with Tulane, honestly, in their offense at least.
Yeah. As I'm also checking, but like I said earlier, I believe Nebraska has No, hold on.
Let me check it. What do you need me to check?
I got you. Oklahoma actually plays Western Carolina, and then week after they play Nebraska.
Nebraska plays Oklahoma.
That is week. That will be week 3.
Oh, God, Nebraska. Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't see Oklahoma losing that game.
Yeah.
I hope
Anyway, to move on to the next game, it was Alabama versus Miami, and I would say out of all the games today, yesterday, other than really probably UCLA shocking LSU, Alabama probably had a pretty damn convincing win where it goes to show you that they seemingly are not going to be probably more than likely dethroned anytime soon. And they already look like they're going to be repeating as champions. And it's only week 1.
I don't see them losing the game.
They utterly annihilated freaking Miami.
I mean, it wasn't a good game to watch. Yeah,
honestly, I watched a little bit of it, and then I just kind of changed the channel. It's like, an inferior team just going up against Alabama. Listen, I'm not the biggest Alabama fan, and do I get enjoyment when I see them lose? Yes. But my God, listen, they're just freaking insane. It's almost every year. You think they lose so much. They just reload, and then those players that come in, you feel like they play even better than the last year's team.
That's getting better and better. I agree.
So listen, I believe Alabama, they're probably going to be obviously a threat probably till I would envision Nick Saban retires from coaching. I mean, maybe that's when they'll be back down to earth of a team. So we'll just have to see. Bryce Young, well, definitely the endorsements he got definitely backed up what he was because he's definitely going to be the eye of many teams, obviously, future and vision for an NFL team. So definitely they're like looking him. Like I said earlier, him and Malik Willis were probably the only 2 quarterbacks that actually played probably really damn good. And they could be, up there. So, well, for Bryce Young, it definitely helped with his Heisman candidacy, so that's good. So yeah,
like you said, they don't even, like you said, there's no rebuild in Alabama. It's just they reload.
yeah,
They don't get bad, and that's a lot of credit to Nick Saban, I think, honestly.
yeah. Defense.
I'm not a big fan either of them, but you can't be a fan of people. They just keep winning. You can't respect them or not respect them.
Yeah. Defense definitely looks great again, like it's been, because hey, Alabama defenses are freaking elite.
As always, you said.
Yeah. And again, the only thing you can do to beat Alabama is you just got to score against them. And Miami didn't do that. They do that for the entirety of the game. So yeah, the Alabama running back, again, he was pretty good. Receiver-wise, they were good. Bryce Young, good. Defense, good. Alabama's fine. In terms of Miami, it seems like the closer and closer, it seems like Manny Diaz might be in the hot seat because, well, I don't know. I think he gave like his press conference saying we had no envisions of losing this game, but, you know, it kind of is what it is. I'm like, well, listen, you're playing Alabama, so what more can you friggin' do?
You can't do against them. You got to play better.
Yeah, listen, you would think at least Miami could maybe put 20 points on the board. They only got to 10. So that's definitely not impressive at all. I can't really give my thoughts on De'Aaron King because I didn't see much of what Miami did because, like I said, I just changed the channel after a while.
What I saw from him, sorry to interrupt.
Go ahead.
He didn't turn the ball over. I think he might have one turnover, but he didn't take any risk or chances.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're down by that much, I mean, at some point, man, throw the ball on the field. Excuse me. That's all I can say.
But yeah.
I thought Bryce Young obviously outperformed him. Put it that way.
Oh yeah, De'Aaron King, his stat line was 178 for 1 touchdown and 2 picks.
Oh, so he did have 2 turnovers. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, compared to Bryce Young, who had 344 yards passing and 4 TDs.
Yeah, I think that the stat line basically shows who is the better quarterback there.
Yeah. So yeah, Miami, they were the 14th ranked team in the country. They might drop down around to the 20th ranked area since it wasn't elite. It was kind of just a blowout loss pretty badly, especially I guess you can say a top 10 opponent. So yeah, we'll have to see. Anyways, the next game, before we talk about the obviously the primetime game, we're going to talk UCLA versus LSU.
UCLA Bruins.
Which definitely, I guess you could say, hold on a quick second, guys. All right, back. I guess my mom's getting me in and out, but whatever. UCLA ends up defeating LSU, shockingly.
That might
upset.
Very disappointed.
Yeah, definitely upset, probably of the week. Now, some people say, "Oh, I could see UCLA beating them." Now, as a UCLA fan, listen, I didn't see in any way how we would beat LSU because from past history of watching this team, it wouldn't lead me to believe. But a lot of people say this is the team for UCLA to win the Pac-12 this year. And definitely this game, you know, it definitely looks like, oh, UCLA is for real. Chip Kelly ain't messing around. He ain't going to be bad Chip Kelly. Because at some point, I literally called Chip Kelly my college version of Matt Nagy. And if you're a Bears fan, you know who Matt Nagy is because we all hate Matt Nagy. But anyways.
New Hampshire, baby.
But the thing is, LSU definitely from just the pregame kind of came in this game probably cocky, thinking they were going to beat around UCLA and just dominate them. You had freaking, like I said earlier in this video, Ed Orgeron talking to a UCLA fan who's talking back at him, saying, "We'll kick your ass. We'll kick your sissy blue T-shirt ass," or something like that. And that comment didn't age well because this dude had to be walked off the field, losing to the sissy blue shirts. So maybe he'll put a little bit more respect on UCLA's names. And honestly, if you ask me, I think UCLA blue colors look pretty nice, if you ask me. So, yeah. Listen, he probably should have not. It's like that one meme says, you probably should not be talking shit because 9 out of 10 times it comes back to bite you in your rear end. But the thing about UCLA, my keys when I was watching this game was, well, UCLA, they definitely got to play defense. And throughout the game, UCLA's defense really friggin' affected and rattled Max Johnson, who was the quarterback of the Buccaneers Super Bowl winning quarterback, Brad Johnson. And UCLA's defense, it was physical. It got up in his, in that first half, they got pressure. They were up in the receiver's face. And I was like, okay, they can actually win this game. Their defense is good enough. The only question is their offense. And it get to the point, I was like, okay, their offense needs to do something. So after the drive after LSU scored, I was just watching the game like, well, UCLA's got to get a score back to keep this game close. And then lo and behold, I see Dorian Thompson-Robinson pass to Dulcich, and he damn near goes 70 yards for the touchdown. And I'm like, okay.
9 complete. 3 of them were touchdowns.
Yeah.
I was like, what is that line for you, kid?
Yeah. Dulcich was definitely, I would say, UCLA's best offensive player, other than Charbonnet, who was a beast. Well, what do I know? All the UCLA running backs deserve, player of the games too. They were beasts. They damn near carried the team. But the whole thing with UCLA is, we saw their run game is the main thing. And whether it was Britton Brown or Zach Charbonnet, LSU's defense literally could not stop them at all. At some point, Charbonnet just came into the game, and he was taking 3-4 defenders on his back, and he still wasn't going down. I was like, wow, this is impressive.
That running back had an amazing game. I'm going to pull up the stat line right now. I don't know if you have it on hand. I'm going to pull it up for.
Yeah,
I'm going to pull this up real quick.
Yeah, Zach Charbonnet, he was a beast, and he had even a beast, last game against Hawaii. Just utterly killed them.
He had 11 carries for 117 yards.
Yeah. You would think an SEC defense would not allow that.
He also had 1 reception for 35 yards. But that Dulich guy, he had 117 yards.
Yeah. You would think an SEC defense wouldn't give that type of stat line up to those players. And let's be honest, LSU on defense had better skill players than UCLA. But at some point, it's football, and 9 out of 10 times, the determination of will to win has a higher edge than just skill sometimes. UCLA proved it. Obviously, the one thing LSU should have done, in my case, was stop the run completely and force Dorian Thompson-Robinson to be a passer. Now, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, I'm not, as a UCLA fan, I'm not high on him. I don't like him. I think he makes really bad decisions, and I think he's a slightly below average quarterback. You have to make him a passer. You have to make him beat you with his arm. So I guarantee you other Pac-12 teams and other teams that plays UCLA, their number one thing is we got to stop the run and we got to force DTR to be a passer. I thought DTR in the LSU game played I would say a solid game by his standards. By his standards, it was solid. And what I mean is he would have had a great game if he didn't start to damn near try to keep LSU in the game in that second quarter. Nearing the tail end of the second quarter, he kept LSU in the game. He gave up an interception, I believe, and then leading into the second quarter into the third. I don't remember if he had an interception in the third or second quarter. It was one of those quarters. I don't remember.
It might have been the third, honestly.
I think it was. I think it was the third quarter. But it was kind of ending part of the second quarter, early third quarter. DTR kept LSU in the game by doing some really arid things and being the DTR where I'm like, okay, I'm done. This is the DTR I hate. But after it was probably more than likely, I believe after the interception, he turned it around and he played a pretty solid game. He made sure not to turn the ball over again, and he made sure not to do too much to where he puts his team at risk. I thought Dorian Thompson-Robinson played a good enough game, and hey, he did enough to win. He did enough to win the game, and I was very much impressed. This is definitely the biggest win in the Chip Kelly era of UCLA football, bar none, because beating an SEC opponent is no joke. Because in terms of UCLA, it definitely helps up this alliance between the Big Ten, Pac-12, and Big 12. With this whole, the Pac-12 can hang with some SEC opponents and maybe some of these other opponents. We'll see what Oregon can do against the Big Ten team next week. But it was a good freaking win, especially probably the win that saved in terms of the Pac-12 as the conference, because the Pac-12 in terms of the conference play, they did not have a good week. Yeah, USC beat San Jose State, but that's nothing impressive there.
Much. They just barely squeaked out a win, so. Yeah,
Stanford, they lost, and they've been pretty dominant in Pac-12 play for quite a while. Yeah, the Washington team, Washington lose. This was definitely the biggest standpoint win. I would say this is the standpoint, the standout win of week one. Obviously, if it wasn't for Clemson versus Georgia, then that would be, obviously you saw my thumbnail, it's JT Daniels and the Bulldogs. But so this was a good game. In terms of the UCLA side of things, what did you like from this game?
The running back is really what impressed me. I mean, like I said, I thought DTR, like you said, basically, he kept him in the game, but he also kept LSU to have a chance. But like you said, me being from New Hampshire, Chip Kelly being a New Hampshire guy, I can't not like UCLA. I'm a big Chip Kelly fan. And there's a few YouTube videos I watch, and I watch about college football. I usually watch them in the morning. And a lot of people are asking, is Chip Kelly back? And is this like the biggest win the Chip Kelly era? And I agree with you. I think this is definitely the biggest win for Chip Kelly, and at least his UCLA era. This is definitely a win for him. And this is also, like you said, a big win for the Pac-12, considering how terrible the ACC did with Clemson and North Carolina losing. So I think that's a huge win for the Pac-12, and I think a Pac-12 team could sneak in if they get undefeated going in there.
Yeah, their next game, UCLA's next game, is going to be against that gritty, tough Fresno State team that has been pretty good this year. So I think that's going to be a very interesting dogfight of a matchup. Now, in terms of the LSU side of things, well, like I said, maybe LSU got too much in their head thinking they were going to come into the Rose Bowl and easily handle UCLA like nothing. Well, the coach started it off with the whole back comment. And, hey, sometimes coaches are an embodiment of their players. And Ed Orgeron didn't have a good year after winning the national championship, and it continues here. In terms of the SEC, this is an embarrassing loss. And SEC-wise, you have no business losing to a UCLA team that is unranked.
UCLA, they could be ranked this year coming up. You never know.
Yeah.
They're doing pretty well.
Yeah. Obviously, the number one, Max Johnson, I thought he looked good. Obviously, pressure got in his way. But really, I thought he did fine for the most part. Definitely, he was no Joe Burrow, but I thought he was solid enough to try to keep LSU in the game. In terms of the receiver-wise, the only receiver I saw that was doing much of any damage was number one, which was Deshaun Boucher, which at some point when I was watching the game, I'm like, that's the only receiver that they're targeting, and that's the only guy they're throwing to. So skill-wise, LSU doesn't seem like they have any other decent skill players. And then, my God, offensive line got completely annihilated by UCLA. Like, completely annihilated. And if that is a sign of things to come, when they play other SEC opponents, all they just got to do is follow UCLA's game plan. Just blitz them heavily a lot and freaking just get to the quarterback. And trust and believe, other SEC opponents are going to be better equipped to deal with LSU and then UCLA, even though UCLA showed up and played really good football. So that's one thing. Another thing is defense got the LSU defense got utterly gashed in this game.
Oh,
utterly gashed. And listen, if I'm an opposing team, I'd honestly say, well, let's keep running this damn ball. And if they can't stop it, we're going to keep doing it.
No, what? Don't, like I said, don't fix what's not broken or whatever.
Yeah. You know, literally, their defense got gashed to skill players that essentially are inferior to their defense. They could not stop the run whatsoever. And then when there were essentially occasional breaks in coverage, those gains turned to damn near over 50-yard gains, which hurt them in the back end.
LSU their defense, they looked tired.
They did look tired.
I don't know if they looked tired. So I don't know if UCLA just way more conditioned than them or whatever, but especially defensive linemen, they looked exhausted out there.
I think the thing is, it was a combination of the fact that UCLA was running the ball and they were also running the hurry-up offense. And by the time after then, eventually those runs start to wear on you, especially if you got the ball carrier carrying it for like 10 yards every play, because that's what UCLA was doing. They were dynamic. And two, even the one thing with DTR, late in the game, he was also taking some of the carries himself and getting in the hole. That LSU defense has things to work out. And so far, it's not looking like it's going to be another good year for Ed Orgeron. And I think they recently gave him an extension as well, too. He only had that one aberration of a year when LSU was legit with Joe Burrow, all their great receivers, and a pretty stout defense. After that, they went back to LSU before they got Joe Burrow. Subpar play at best.
I agree. So maybe I think it was less than subpar, honestly.
Yeah. I could say that.
A lot of that. I expected a lot more, but UCLA could be a good team this year. We don't know. Maybe UCLA is a lot better than we think.
Yeah. Again, we'll just see what LSU does in conference play, but it definitely was not a good start to their season at all. Again, it could also be from the standpoint that it was LSU's first game compared to UCLA's second game of their season. That could play a factor, but LSU's got to turn around. Maybe Ed Orgeron will this time not worry about talking to fans, talking about their school colors and apparel, and focus on his own damn team. Because I think you need to worry about your sissy purple and gold team right now because they got gashed.
That purple guy from McDonald's, whatever his name.
Yeah. LSU, let me see who they got up next on their schedule, actually. LSU returns home to play, obviously, McNeese and then Central Michigan. And then the first SEC opponent is Mississippi State, which is week 4.
When's the first team against a ranked team?
That would not be until Florida, if Florida stays ranked.
Oh, geez. When's that?
That would be Saturday, October 16th, which I believe is week 3, week 4, week 5, week 6, week 7.
Oh, geez. What a cupcake schedule.
Yeah. So that's the kind of – when they get to Florida, they're kind of deep already. They've already played 3 SEC opponents. They're mostly in their conference. So we'll see. Obviously, before we end up this video, the last big game of the weekend, which was the primetime game, the most advertised game, and that was Georgia versus Clemson. So that was number 3, Clemson versus number 5, Georgia, where essentially it was kind of a battle of former rival quarterbacks from, again, California. DJ Ugagal, I'm not going to say. I'm just going to say his name.
I have no idea either, so I'm just going to call him DJ.
Listen, props to the announcers that can say his name. I guarantee you they had to freaking work on saying that name like God knows 100 plus times to get it exactly right.
It's probably mispronounced too. So
Yeah, listen, I struggle to say freaking Giannis's last name, but the love of
Caputo, right? Or
Kumpo, I think that's his last name. But I can, for the love of God, I cannot say DJ Ugagale or something like that. Yeah, like I was saying, these were this matchup was essentially star-studded, two star-studded quarterbacks back from their times in California when they played each other in high school. JT Daniels obviously coming from Modern Day High School, and DJ coming from St. John Bosco, which are two top schools out in the state of California. And it was kind of a rematch, but really, you would think, oh, it'd be between those two guys. They're renewing a rivalry since high school, in a way, almost like similar like Trevor Lawrence and Justin Fields in a way. But no, this was more about the defense and stuff like that for both individual teams, and then really, just a hard, gritty game. Now, listen, this game, if you were looking for high-octane offense scoring, you didn't get that in this damn game. I'm just going to tell you, this was a defensive battle. It was essentially whose defense would give out last and which offense would take advantage of a slacking defense. In Georgia, they ended up doing that. Now, JT Daniels, he didn't really look impressive, to be honest. I thought he played a pretty subpar game. He didn't do much enough to say, like, oh, Georgia's got a legit quarterback. So he's definitely going to have to do a lot more than what he did in this week's game. But then again, props to the Clemson defense on making it hard on him. And then, two, they lost one of their linemen at, like, literally the start of the game. So that could have been another big factor. But I will say the Georgia running game was pretty good for them. So that's good on that whole thing. But I do think JT Daniels can play a little bit better. And in terms of the Georgia defense, holy shit. They were just monsters on all over Clemson. Just crazy. So Kirby Smart's got that defense legit. And if that's going to be the Georgia defense all year long, they can challenge Alabama in the SEC. Obviously, it's going to come down to their offense putting up points, but that defense, if it's going to be stout like they were tonight, holy crap, man. Well, then, they got a good chance to beat Alabama in the SEC championship and even go to the college football playoffs. So this could be the year for Georgia. We'll just have to see. Those are my takeaways from Georgia in the whole thing. It was just their defense was very impressive. And listen, it also helps with the standpoint that they stopped the Clemson run, and the fact that your pressure is getting there so much. Essentially, Clemson's just dinking and dunking it down to the flats, and you don't have to play deep. But now there was a few times in the game when the Georgia defense didn't hit home. You can pass on this defense. There was, DJ did get some pretty nice throws down the field against this Georgia defense. So essentially, I feel like to beat this Georgia defense, you have to make sure you're blocking up front, hopefully get a running game. If not, have a talented enough quarterback to be able to push the ball down the field against Georgia. So I'm not going to say Georgia's defense was A-plus material like Alabama was in their performance, because there was a part in the game when Clemson drove and got their 3 points, DJ was throwing the ball down the field, and they started to gain some rhythm and stuff like that. So I think with Georgia, you have to just have good blocking from your offensive line to stall their defensive line from getting to the quarterback. But those are my takeaways from Georgia before we get to Clemson.
Yeah, I mean, it was an awesome game, but I was so excited for this game for honestly weeks. I was so excited to watch this game. I was waiting for it, and I wouldn't say I was disappointed, but I expected a lot more from the offenses, I guess I should say. It was a great game, but Georgia, I'm telling you, I don't think Alabama will lose, but I think they can compete. And I really do think it'll be a close game. Honestly, a close game.
Yeah.
So I was impressed with Georgia. I was very, very unimpressed with Clemson.
Yeah. What were your thoughts on JT Daniels?
What?
So what were your thoughts on JT Daniels?
I think he did. He won the game, but that way.
Yeah.
As a quarterback, it's about wins and losses. And He won the game. He kept in the game. But to be a team like Alabama, he's going to have to do a lot more.
Yeah.
A lot more.
Yeah. We'll just see what he does against other SEC opponents, because other than that was probably it in terms of tough defenses he's going to have to fight from another conference. So, yeah.
Oh, sorry. I just lost connection. I just got back.
Okay. Now, in terms of Clemson, well, there was also especially going into the game, it was the number one debate. Who needs this win more, Georgia or Clemson? A lot of people said Georgia. Some people said Clemson. Now, looking at the aftermath of this week of college football, it's definitely looking like Clemson needed this game a lot more. We just spoke a bit about it not too long ago about UNC losing. Then you got Miami losing. Well, it seems like there's not going to be any competitive other around, I guess you can say, roundabout ways of, I guess you can say ACC opponents left.
I lost connection. Hello?
Yeah, I hear you.
I'm back now. Sorry, I just lost connection again. It's being crappy right now because it's raining where I'm at.
Okay. We're almost done. But as I was saying, the ACC didn't do good. Miami lost pretty badly. North Carolina, they didn't do good. And
Clemson needed both those teams, or at least Miami, to compete.
Yeah. And the thing is, we're talking about Clemson.
Now, like you said, Clemson need that more than Georgia now.
Yeah. Now we're talking about Clemson, maybe NC State maybe being a thing again for Clemson. And that's not too good. That's not too high.
No, they needed that one bad. And their offense just didn't do anything. 3 points. Yeah. You got to score more than 3 points.
Yeah. Essentially, a pick six kind of just sealed the deal for them. That's kind of the whole thing. It was like, what was going to break first, offense or defense? And DJ threw in costly timed pick six, and that was kind of all she wrote. And then all freaking, Georgia had to do was play defense, and they got a field goal, scoring 10 points and stuff like that. Like you said, Clemson's offense didn't do anything. Now, Clemson's defense, Brent Venables, his defense was still freaking stout as is. He just needed production from his offense. And I think I made a tweet yesterday night saying, in the last 2 games, DJ from last year when he had to start for Trevor Lawrence for him being out because of COVID, he looked a lot more impressive in those 2 games than he did in this game completely. And if you're saying, he didn't play anybody last year, he played freaking Notre Dame in South Bend and that game went to I think double overtime from what I remember.
It did.
So I know. So for people kind of hating on DJ saying they don't know if he's got the stuff, listen, I think the whole thing there is I think he's got the stuff because you saw a glimpse of it last year, especially in that Notre Dame game. He is a pretty good quarterback, a pretty good player. The thing is, I feel like the Clemson's offense as a whole didn't really help him in any favors. Yes, he didn't do himself any favors. I thought he held on to the ball way too long in some, pass attempts where he just forced himself into a sack. But the Clemson offense didn't do him no favors. First, their run game was non-existent. They didn't even have one. So in one case, I'm guessing they're missing Travis Etienne, which it sucks for him. He's out for the season. Second, their offensive line, god damn, man, they could not block for this man whatsoever. I think I heard another the same college football podcast. It said this game reminded them of that Ohio State game from last year in the college football playoffs, where friggin' Ohio State just got pressure on the offensive line, and even Trevor Lawrence couldn't do much of anything. The same thing happened here. Dang near, there was a few times where, DJ snapped the ball, and there was already a defender right in his face, and he had to take the sack. And it's like,
didn't have much help.
Yeah. Offensive line, if you can't block, well, you're not helping out your quarterback. And you could say DJ was running for his damn life. Running game definitely has to be better. And then clearly, other than Ross, they have no other receivers I can even name up.
Yeah, 100%. I couldn't agree anymore. Couldn't agree more. I thought Dabo Sweeney also had a terrible game plan.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened, but that was just. I mean, it was a close game. The offenses just couldn't do anything.
Yeah. I would say let's not rip DJ too bad because I know there was a lot of people. He wasn't like a trending topic on Twitter, and a lot of people saying, "Good God, the people gave endorsements to this kid." Listen, he's only a sophomore. He's in his second year. This is his first year starting. You know,
You still a kid.
I won't completely write him off because of what I saw last week or what I saw last year in the 2 games he started. I think he's talented. I think the difference from this year to last year is he definitely had a lot more talented weapons. You know, he had Amari Rogers. You know, obviously he had Travis Etienne. He had a lot. He had a lot better help around him. But definitely, I would say the one thing he's gonna have to prove his game is maybe he's gonna have to not hold the ball on too much. And then also the one big thing I saw, you can definitely see it in his face when they was zoomed in. He looked like he was nervous and he looked like he was pretty afraid of the moment. Like you could see it within his eyes. And every time they zoomed in on his face mask, I was like, he doesn't look comfortable. He looks like he's nervous.
Yeah, and you said he has to get rid of the ball earlier, but also he should get more protection too, behind more time at least.
Oh yeah. I do think there were several times where he did hold the ball on too much. And I know he's more a pocket passing quarterback than a mobile quarterback, but sometimes maybe you might, if your receivers are not getting open, maybe you might need to take it into your own hands and you might need to run around a little bit instead of holding the ball on too much and just forcing yourself into it.
He can run around. He's definitely like that.
Yeah. So, you know, we'll just have to see. I don't know who Clemson got next week, but it's probably going to be a weaker opponent held at Clemson, I'm guessing.
I'll check real quick. Give me one second.
But other than that, you know.
They have South Carolina State. Yeah, they don't play a ranked team again until they don't have another ranked game the rest of the year.
Yeah.
So they play South Carolina State, Georgia Tech, and then NC State, Boston College, Syracuse, Pitt, Florida State, Louisville, UConn, Wake Forest, and South Carolina. They have no one. Yeah,
and ultimately, they might be screwed. They might be screwed out of the college football playoffs.
They don't even play North Carolina.
Yeah, they would have to hope North Carolina somehow gets back to the top 10 and makes the ACC championship game.
And then you play Virginia Tech, who beat North Carolina. So
yeah, and the thing is, I feel like now Clemson needs to hope that somebody in that top 4 loses.
Well, Georgia and Alabama have to play each other, but still, I don't see that. Do they play each other in the regular season this year or no?
No.
I think both go the SEC championship game undefeated. I think they both submit the playoff.
Yeah. Well, we'll just have to see.
Oregon.
We'll just have to see where things go. But so far at this point if things hold up where the top 4 teams just finish the year undefeated.
They got Oklahoma still too. I totally forgot. Yeah,
they might not be. Wow. They might not have a chance to get in.
They're probably gonna be out. Wow! Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So Clemson ultimately could be screwed, and it's only 1 week. And the fact that we made the mention earlier, the ACC did not have a good week. You got UNC losing, Miami not losing in embarrassing fashion. They didn't even make the game competitive. That's all Miami had to do. Yeah, they probably not would have won, but if you at least lost in a competitive way, okay, we'll give you the benefit of the doubt and say, okay, it's a pretty valid opponent. But no, things didn't play out. And 2, it doesn't help the fact that Clemson did not look good at all in this game. Offensively, I thought defensively they were solid. They were fine. Offensively, it doesn't help out that standpoint either. So they essentially got to cross their fingers and hope they make the college football playoffs because it's not looking convincing at all. And they better hope Miami and UNC turn their seasons around and somehow get back near, I would say, top 10 status.
Yeah. and I don't see it happening. But
yeah, we'll see. But other than that, that's kind of it for this video. Again, like we said, Tuesday we'll be back to talk Notre Dame and Florida State and even Louisville versus Ole Miss, in which I think Louisville and Florida State are the only two ACC teams remaining. So maybe they can win their games to make it a little bit better for the ACC conference. But I don't see them beating Notre Dame, nor do I see Louisville beating Ole Miss. Now, they could beat Ole Miss because Lane Kiffin's obviously out with COVID. So that could be a thing there. I just don't know if I know Florida State game, that's in Florida State, in Tallahassee. I don't know if the Ole Miss game is in their home stadium. I don't know if that's on a neutral field. So I'll have to
neutral site.
It probably is. We'll have to wait when that whole thing comes out. But that's kind of it for talking college football this week. This video is probably going to go up Monday. But listen, if you guys like the video, leave a like. Put in the comment section what's your thoughts this week of college football was like for you and your hype levels for next week's of week 2 of college football. But other than that, hit that subscribe when you want to get more Camp-Free content. I discuss movies, anime. Sometimes I do a little video games here and there, but probably not. And for my NFL content, I talk Chicago Bears. So if you want to hear me ranting, which is probably me this upcoming Sunday night, I'm probably going to be ranting about a Chicago Bears loss. Other than that, I'm going to get out of here, or we're going to get out of here. So hopefully you guys have a great rest of your day or night check out this video. Until then, guys, we'll see you guys next week for week 2 action of college football. Till then, guys, peace.